We are recording.
Okay, I'd like to start the open forum. Amanda, you're on.
Okay. So talking about my garage project again. Ramsey, do we want to put up the architect's drawings first?
Sure. Brett,
Or
I think we have something up. I think we started with maybe your,
whatever's first. That's fine.
Can you shut the patio door?
Okay, so we have settled on a design for now. This is what you're seeing, the east elevation is the entrance into the mudroom. We decided to go with a door that is a little bit more reminiscent of a front door because that's how we use the house, even though this is the back of the house. So it's not going to be anything fancy. We are talking to Jim at Honeyway Falls Millwork about
Great person.
Yeah, so we're waiting for a quote from him to make a door that is very close to our front door and our vestibule door, and to make a window that would be, almost an exact match of the rest of the windows in our house. So I believe that's the way we're going to go. We're doing the side lights to let a little bit more light in there. And one of the questions I had for you folks was that Jennifer Tackage, the architect, is recommending an 8-foot door. It's a back door. We currently only have an 80-inch door. The front door is 84 inches, 7 feet. She's recommending an 8-foot door because the ceilings in there are high and the entrance to the kitchen is elevated up 3 steps. So when you look out from the kitchen, you would see more of a door and more of the outside. Jim, who would be making the door most likely, thought that was very large, and I'm really torn with whether it should be an 8-foot door. That seems very large for a back door, even though it will let in more light. But my husband and I are just really not sure. But the drawing that she has there is she has put in an 8-foot door.
Well, one option, Amanda, is to go with like a 7-foot door and a transom or something like that.
Oh, okay.
You would end up with light over it, and yet you wouldn't. It's going to be difficult if you want a storm door or a screen or anything like that. I mean, an 8-foot door is expensive and it's big.
How would a transom look underneath the closed overhang that we're doing?
Well, I think the amount of light would be very similar to if you just lowered the top of the door, say a foot, make it 7 foot instead of 8 foot.
And then just add.
You would just have a transom across the whole thing that would let in light, and you would still be able to see out at that height. And yet, if you went with a storm door or anything else, it would be considerably cheaper to build. John or anyone else, I welcome your thoughts on it.
So I would go with a 6'8" door with a transom that give you more of a little more of a transom. I think what's potentially nice about this is that the height of the head of the door or the head of the transom is common with the head of the window in this particular instance.
Mm-hmm.
I have some feelings about the door and the side light that I can share with you at some point. I mean, I would tend to go with either a bottom style that's taller than that. They're typically more like 10 inches traditionally. The transoms look very modern to me. Excuse me, the side lights look very modern to me as a single tall light. But I can give you a sketch of my thinking on that, and then you can, choose to go which route that you want to go.
I actually was thinking for the side light and for the door to do 3/4 glass. So that's the first
I would
option that Jim is
actually
working.
prefer that with a panel in the bottom would be wonderful.
Well, I think they should match, like the door on the side. I
Yes,
think that should.
agreed.
So
Yep.
that's what Jim's actually working up. That would be one option.
And I also think that you could consider a single side light instead of a double side light. Just
Oh,
just have somebody sketch it and look at it,
okay.
you know? I mean, and again, if you want, if you send this to me, I'll do a a hand sketch of some thoughts that I have.
That would be very helpful.
John, you mentioned a wider style at the bottom. You mean wider rail, right?
I do mean a wider rail.
Okay.
I absolutely do.
Okay. Just
As
check.
you said earlier, Jerry.
Okay, can we scroll down to the garage, unless there's any other comments on that part? Scroll down to the next, the garage. This is our floor plan. Actually, let's go down a little bit further so you can see what it's going to look like. That might be easier.
You flipped it.
We did. We did.
I think that's a good idea.
I let my husband decide where the garbage toter should be, as it is his responsibility. And we are away, as you all know, we are a ways from the road. So every 20 feet matters. So we're putting them on the south side. We're doing the 9-foot garage doors. We did decide to, on the north elevation, we're doing the one standard height door, and then we're doing 2 double hung windows, and they were placed in a way that if we wanted to do something, ever wanted to do some kind of a canopy or something freestanding or attached to the garage for shade, because we will get a lot of sun in that area, that the window placement would be, that we thought that was where the window placement should be for that. And if you scroll down a little bit further, you can see that for the, the east and the west elevations, we're just going with a double hung in the gable. And we're keeping the band. The architect gave us a couple different renditions, and that's what we decided we'd like to stick with. And then if you scroll up just a little bit, thank you, Brett, for getting all of this. You scroll up to the floor plan. So we are doing a full staircase. We do need we need a variance for the height, and the zoning planner was, warned us that a attic area that is accessed by a full staircase and a good headroom up there is not preferred, but this is really what we would like to do. My husband would like to be able to stand up there. We would like to be able to use it for storage. The concern apparently is that it could be used as living area, a home office, whatnot in the future. And that's what the zoning board does not like to see. However, this is the way we'd like to build it. So we're going to proceed with this and support our seeking of a variance by any legal arguments we have and can make. This just functions the best for us. And the real important questions that I have for you guys, just for some feedback, is the type of materials for the garage. We're going to do board and batten siding. We don't have a contractor yet. We're waiting to do the construction drawings to pick a contractor, finalize the contractor. But Brett, the siding's actually not in there, so you can just start at the top of the materials. But yeah, cedar board and batten and a metal roof, which we have not looked at roofs yet. I'm waiting for the one contractor we're pretty certain we're going to go with is going to give me some recommendations for a metal roof. I like the style in the picture that you're seeing, but I don't, metal roof, totally new to me. So I don't know if the board has any feedback, any suggestions when I'm looking at a metal roof. I like a little bit of a wider style, but other than that, I haven't looked at anything yet. So if you have any feedback for that, otherwise I don't have any clear paths to show you.
Well, couple of questions, unless you have more to present.
Oh yeah, I can go. Why don't I go through the rest of the materials we're
Okay,
thinking?
great.
So I originally thought we were going to do wood, lots of wood, everything. And however, that is proved to not be the best option for a new build. So I wanted to discuss what kind of materials the board would think were appropriate for something that's a new build, which I have not been on the commission long enough to have seen a new build. We haven't had any new build since I've been on the commission. So for example, garage doors, steel was recommended to us. We have two different sort of levels here. This, what is shown now is a sort of a mid-range steel. You can get the carriage styles. Comes in a wood grain look. It can be painted, but it comes in a wood grain look, and seems to be a good option. The downfall is apparently you can't replace parts of them. If they get dented by, say, small little boys that may be running around, they basically have to be replaced if they get pretty damaged. So that's one downfall. If you scroll down, we have another option, which is a less expensive option that doesn't give us a, as far as like a carriage style look, doesn't have as good of a design, but it does have, it's more cost efficient and also is able to be repaired. You can replace a section of it, which was when we went to Feluca to look at garage doors, that was one benefit. So how does the board feel about garage door, a steel garage door as opposed to a wood door?
Well, are the wood doors really wood, or are they some composite material?
The ones that you're seeing are steel and composite. We talked briefly about a solid wood door. It's very expensive, and it's a lot of maintenance. So as far as solid wood with, no steel, no composite, it's very expensive and high maintenance. So we would prefer to go this route, which is not what I was intending to do until I started researching and learning about all these materials. So one of these options would be our preference.
Well, if all options were, if either one, which would you prefer? One that you could fix if it got dented?
I'm actually leaning toward the carriage style right now. We would pick a final option to present, to put it in our application. The really appealing thing about the other one is that parts of it can be repaired. We do have two very small children, and I'm sure they're going to be destructive because they already are. But I really like the carriage style look, but it is a composite and a steel, and it certainly can dent, and the folks I spoke to at Feluca said that they have tried for years to be able to find a way to fix them, replace pieces of them, and they just can't do it. They just can't piece them together. But we would prefer either one of these options over solid wood.
Okay.
Can I ask, is it true that these doors are often damaged? I don't think I've seen a smashed door.
To be honest, I haven't really had a garage with this kind of door ever. I've lived in a lot of old houses that never had a garage. So this is new to me. I have seen garage doors with dents in them, but I don't know. I'm hoping, I don't think it's more of an issue like you throw a baseball at it. He said soccer ball, basketball, fine. baseball, hockey puck, my husband was inquiring about, he would hope the kids play hockey. Yeah, is going to dent it. Is it going to be bad enough that we would want to fix it? I certainly hope not, which is why I'm leaning toward the ones with the carriage style, more of a traditional carriage style. But my main question is, are you okay with the steel composite options with a wood grain look, or even a flat painted look? I'm not sure what's going to look best with the siding. I have to kind of mold that over some more. Both of them come in those options.
I'm okay with it. It just depends on the style, right?
Right.
If you ended up coming in with a modern style, then I wouldn't be okay with it.
Well,
But
this
if you
what you're
come up with something that has a bit of a traditional style to it, little character, then I would be okay with it.
what you're looking at right now is where the arrow is on the left for this less expensive model. This is, I think that's the look that we thought would look the best.
Yeah, that's lovely.
So that would, if we went with the less expensive option, the one that was repairable, that would be the look we would be going for.
The SQ22?
SQ22, yes.
Okay. I see two arrows, that's why I was asking.
I prefer SQ22 a lot.
Yes, that has, well, basically the grid on the windows is removable. So we think we prefer that, but if we don't, then we can always take it off and get the option above.
Is the grid on the outside?
It is, yes.
Okay.
As opposed to the top option is the 4 windows. They're actually 4 windows. And so I'm still mulling that over. But I'm leaning toward the lower one with the arrow.
I like that better.
I do too.
Okay.
Although probably if you're trying to do something with the vintage of the house, it probably would not have had windows in it anyway. But
Yeah.
if you do want windows, probably the SQ22 is, or the one below it, whatever that is. It has the divided lights there. The SQ.
I think the one with the arrow on it is REC 14. That has the removable grids. Now,
Okay.
the SQ22 is separate windows with removable grids in them.
Okay.
So,
I'm fine with any of those, so.
okay. And the carriage style that we looked at before for the more expensive door, I believe we've talked, yes, so that style as well. We would be putting windows in it, but that's,
Is this 22 or 23?
22, I believe is our preference.
23 is not correct.
No, yeah, 20. No, the X goes to 22. 21, we thought about, but we're thinking about doing that maybe on the toter doors. Which why don't we scroll down and we'll go to the next. I don't know if windows or doors are next. Let's see. You can just go ahead past all the garage doors.
Amanda, where did you get the bids for the door from?
Faluca?
You might want to try Alliance Door.
Okay.
And Rolly Door has put just put one opener they just installed on our carriage house, and they did the other ones. But you might just want to see if they have anything that's that you like better, and that might cost less or was more susceptible to baseballs and hockey pucks. Just a thought.
You said Alliance Door?
Alliance Door, yes. And the
Okay.
residential department is called Rolly Door, ROLY Door.
Okay. Thank you.
We use roller door, but we have very old doors and they're very heavy. But I would be concerned about the dents with the kids also.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the idea of you have to replace the whole door if somebody puts
Yeah.
it, that's not, I would stay away from that.
Okay, thank you. I will definitely take a look at that. So windows. I looked at Anderson at Morse, and I looked at Marvin at Rochester Colonial.
Yep.
So the Marvin, I think the Marvin option we'd like to go with for the garage is the Elevate collection, and just 1/1. They are fiberglass. They're wood with clad in fiberglass. I believe that's the right description. So the interior is wood, is not clad, and then the exterior is clad in fiberglass. It comes in colors that I think would be appropriate. Probably looking at a grayish beige, as you can see here, my arrow at the Hebel gray. I'm not entirely certain that all the garage door color and look and the siding and the window all have to sort of be decided. But that's the look we're going for. So it is a fiberglass window, and I believe it's the lower end of Marvin's. It was explained that there was the solid, the wood top of the line, which we were initially looking at to put in the mudroom until we found out about Jim, and would prefer to have him make the window. And then there's an aluminum option from Marvin. That's all aluminum, I believe. And then there is this Elevate collection, which is the fiberglass. So we think this is a good option for the garage, and would just love some feedback. What do you folks think?
And they would not have grills, is that correct?
That's correct.
Just 1/1.
Just 1/1, yep.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Me too.
Yep.
For the-
Okay,
But Amanda, I do have a couple other thoughts.
sure.
Maybe you want to go through the whole thing, and then I'll throw those out.
Well, I think the last thing is, if you scroll down, the last thing is, well, actually we have doors, or we have the patio. So we'll skip over to the patio. The patio will be next to the garage. And we looked at RT Masters. We looked at Bluestone. This is the pattern that Mark has recommended, the random rectangular pattern that we would do with either Bluestone, or these are two different concrete paver options. For cost purposes, we have quite a bit of walkway. We have a big patio we'd like to do, or terrace, as Mark would say. I'll call it a terrace. And we can save, we can save quite a bit with going with the concrete pavers. We actually thought they looked a little bit more interesting. However, my husband is a geologist, so of course he was always favoring the stone, but we think that this is the better option. I know it's something that maybe in 20 years we'll want to redo in Bluestone, but for, it's kind of hard to tell, but I think this is one area where we'd like to save money because it's a very large project, and we really liked the options. We didn't, I know that natural stone would be obviously more appropriate for the time period of the house, but this is what we're favoring.
Well, either's gonna look lovely, and it's on the ground. It's not part of the main structure. I don't really see it as an issue.
Just be prepared to buy some extra Roundup, because you're going to have little weeds between every joint in those.
I don't know. There's no other option, though. I mean, there's nothing else I think we could do that would avoid that.
Concrete.
Well, if you're working with Mark, then he's going to recommend a section that has a weed barrier and a crusher run and sand and things that are going to discourage that for.
Well, let me just explain that our front walk is it's brick pavers, and there was a weed barrier and all that, but weeds tend to grow between. They put sand usually between the
the polymeric sand.
Yep, and that's where the weeds grow. They don't come up from below; they come up from the top.
Well,
So it becomes charming at that point.
And we have a DIY patio that my husband and our landscape guy did from leftover materials from one of the granite places. And it's full of weeds, but the joints are very wide. And, you know, apparently polymeric sand isn't all equal. So there are better versions of it than what my husband bought from Home Depot. So with professionals and the proper base and sand, we don't want to go for a concrete look. You know, I know stamped concrete could achieve somewhat of a look, but it's not recommended for the Northeast as far as I know, because it's going to crack. We have
No,
too much.
I wouldn't recommend that either.
Yeah.
You have two young boys or children, they can take care of the weeds.
I have a solution. I have a solution for your weed problem. We have the rugged stone with wide joints, and if you put moss, Roundup will not kill the moss, and it's slowly filling in all the cracks so that eventually we will have no more weeds.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
We just found out that Roundup doesn't kill the moss. And so that's how we learned that.
So, well, that's much preferable to weeds. We were thinking about concrete for the parking area in front of the garage. Our original plan was to do all crusher run for the driveway and the parking area. However, we recently learned that if we then decide a year or a couple years down the road to pave or to put concrete, they need different bases. So we do think we are going to we have no hard surface without anything in the parking area or on the driveway. We have no hard surfaces. I don't like the look of anything other than gravel from the road. So the driveway portion will likely always stay gravel. But in the parking area, we thought maybe we should have a hard surface, and perhaps we should make that decision now. So Mark has, suggested that concrete was a good look. We could even do an exposed aggregate. I don't have it here. That's something I have to look into, probably for next month. But we might end up doing concrete in the parking area after all. But again, it's going to come down to cost and where we are and everything else.
Just a thought on concrete. If you bring your cars in and they're loaded with salt, you want to make sure the concrete is sealed, because otherwise salt and concrete don't go well together.
Yeah, Mark was talking about a certain kind of sealer and then having it resealed professionally every, I think, 5 or 6 years.
Good.
So that's, we would definitely do it right. And it's not a final decision, but I am going to ask the contractor about that. We're waiting to hear back from him on the roof. I think the only other thing that is next is the door the doors for the toter, the garbage toters, and the door on the north side that we would enter into from the house. These are, oh gosh, what's my thing? Theratrue. And these actually were the doors recommended by both Morse and Rochester Colonial. They are a fiberglass door with a wood look. You can see all the different architectural characters there. They're made to be a nice door. So rather than a wood door, because we're not going to do a storm door, but it's not covered. It's hard to come in and out of a storm door and a main door. And so I want to limit. So coming from the car, I have to only go through 3 doors as opposed to 4 doors if I don't do a storm door on the garage. So I would like to go with this fiberglass composite door. I was thinking about the arrow, that design. I'm not 100% sure if I want it to be divided, but I do think for this we wanted to go with not a 3/4 glass, but less glass on this. But what are some any thoughts on this type of a door, again, and not using a solid wood door?
Any of those are fine.
Yeah, I would try to,
I think you would maybe want to mimic your exterior door just a little bit.
yes, yes. Whatever window pattern you have in the overhead doors, you might want to carry out to the.
Oh, okay, and the
Yeah.
garage doors, okay. Yes, that could be, so there's an option in the second row, or yes, a couple options in the second row that would be, that could match that, okay. So, oh, and if you scroll down a little bit more, thanks, Brett, you're doing great. For the doors to the toters, depending on exactly what we pick for the overhead doors, these are some of the options. A solid panel, most, you know, if we do a carriage style, whichever, one of these that would look appropriate on the same side with that, because you're going to see both of them.
Make them the same as your garage doors. It's similar, different size, different shape, but similar. You have too many different things happening.
So you think the same pattern. So if you scroll down a little bit more, Brett, so here you've got the similar pattern.
Well, what about the ones that you showed earlier? Couldn't they go on for the toter doors too?
Yeah, without the glass. There were some there that looked just like your other door, except no glass.
These actually are. These are the same types of doors, just no glass.
Well, why wouldn't you put glass in the toter door?
No.
No?
I don't know if we want to see the toters, although it might be above the toters, but I don't know. We never really considered it. I was always just assuming that it would be solid.
Okay.
But do you think glass would look better?
If all three doors are on the front of the two overhead doors and this door are on the front of the garage, I don't think, well, you can always hang a curtain or something inside the door, but I would, my first inclination would be to make them all the same, the same type of light pattern.
Can we see the elevation again?
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
So the toter doors are a different size. So
Okay. All right. Yep. Okay. Stand corrected.
Okay, I think as far as the doors go, that's great. Jerry, did you have any suggestions or comments about a metal roof? We were talking about that at the beginning.
Well, let's start. If no one else wants to jump in here, let me throw my 4.5 cents in. One, I really think you might want to add, at least towards the end away from the house, I would add a couple of windows on the gable at garage level, simply because in keeping with the house, if you're trying to mimic the same vintage as the house, a garage would have always had windows on the first floor as well. So that's one suggestion. If you put a couple of windows on the gable away from the house. Secondly, I would consider an entry from the house that would go into the garage that would be covered. Because if it's raining or something and you want to get into the garage, you don't necessarily want to have to come out, go around it, and get into another door. So that would be a suggestion.
So I think right now we have, so you're covered at the mudroom, the door entering the mudroom.
Right.
And then you're about, 10 to 15 feet, I think, to the door on the other side of the garage. And we don't have that door covered. We looked into making, we thought about doing a covered walkway. We nixed that plan because of cost, and we brought the garage much closer than we originally were planning and eliminated the driveway. So I would love to be covered the whole way, but we just don't have the budget for it. We don't have the money for anything that would be any sort of covered walkway that would require piers of a sort.
Well, what if you just had a door in the garage opposite the one in the kitchen, even if it wasn't covered, as opposed to around the corner?
If you, I'm trying to see where you would see Brett, do you have the color drawings from the landscape architect that show the corner of the garage is at about the corner of the,
okay.
of the house? Here we go. Okay. So the door, wherever you place the door, you're about the same distance.
Okay, okay. Stand corrected again. Yep.
Trust me, I wanted to do it covered. I really did. But once we get into, you know, sinking piers and whatnot, it was just, it's expensive, and we just don't.
Okay.
We just
Well,
don't have the funds for it.
I didn't realize the garage was, okay. This helped. This would have helped earlier.
This is my big sacrifice. My big sacrifice was not being covered.
No, that makes sense. Then they do sell umbrellas, from what I understand.
I can run. It's good for me now.
I have a question, Jay. Amanda, you're going with a metal roof, right?
Yes.
Is there a tree over the roof?
No.
Okay.
Nothing at all. There's no, this is the area in my backyard that there's no trees whatsoever.
Okay. Our cottage, we have a metal roof on the barn, and there's a walnut tree, which makes a lot of noise.
Yes.
I would imagine
Yeah.
that. And we actually have a walnut tree by the actual barn. This is going to look kind of like a barn, but our actual barn, we have a walnut tree over by there. And, but no, we don't have anything. Mark is suggesting you can see putting in a tree there, as well as my husband's dream of an outdoor kitchen, but that is definitely phase 2, 3, or 10.
Just don't have a walnut tree over a metal roof.
I agree. That would not be a good idea.
Even an oak tree. We had one over our cottage, and you knew when the walnuts or the acorns were dropping. But
Yeah.
to get back to the metal roof, the house has an asphalt roof. Is that correct?
It does, and it needs to be replaced, I would say, within the next 5 years.
So why not do an asphalt roof on the garage?
Mm-hmm.
This is, you know, a conversation we've been having, you know, we had with the architect, we had with Mark, we had with the contractor that we believe we're going to go with. The thought was part of the timing is an issue. If we do an asphalt roof on the garage and don't do the house for 5 years, is it going to be an issue with it matching? And because they're so close, the garage will have faded. I don't know how much, because I put a new asphalt roof on my last house and then sold it a year later. So I don't really know how much it has faded. So the metal roof was thought to be a contract. The Mark and Jennifer, their vision was an outbuilding of a sort, not necessarily like an animal barn, but an outbuilding of a sort that would have been at a farm. This was a farm at the time period of the, you know, that we're looking at. And so they thought the contrasting material, along with the fact that we weren't sure what we were going to do with the house, was a suggestion. I like the way a metal roof looks. I've heard, so as far as the house goes, I know there are options that we haven't gotten into of different kinds of metal roofs that look like asphalt roofs, that don't, that can go over original cedar shake and that still require a tear off. It's something we haven't explored yet. And so if you folks think that's a good idea for us to get into, I mean, we could do that. We're not ready to do the roof on the house. So we're trying to squeak as much out of it as we can.
Well, a couple of thoughts. First of all, who is the contractor you're leaning towards?
Shane Schulman.
Sorry, Shane?
Shane Schulman.
How do you spell his last name?
I had it up right here. It's SCH. Oh, let me get it for you. There's no L. It's SCHUMANN. Yeah, SCHUMANN. Schumann Construction. We also had a quote from Lazaro, which is a family member on my husband's side. And we are getting a quote from JB Sterling in the first week of September, because the quotes were very far apart. So
Not
We-
unusual?
Yeah, we're very far apart. So we are opting not to do construction drawings until after we get the variances and the Preservation Commission's approval. So without construction drawings, the contractors are not, they're not saying this is an exact estimate, but I know we're going to pick the materials we're going with, the doors, the windows, so we'll have those costs will be pretty set. But we decided to get a third quote because they were just so far apart.
Well, I guess John
That's-
may have some suggestions. I may have some suggestions for contractors once you get to that stage.
Okay, yeah, I would definitely be, I can reach out to you guys about that. But I don't know, are there any other for the roof, we thought if we went with a contrast, then we would have more flexibility as far as the house goes to do what we'd like to do when we do it. But if we went with asphalt, then we would be trying to match that. Would that be limiting?
Okay. Any
I'm
thoughts?
I'm fine either way. It's not a big issue either way for me. I like a metal roof fine, asphalt roof is fine. Not concerned about them looking like the same thing.
So as far as siding goes, you're probably looking at a composite cement board for whatever siding whether it's board and batten or clapboards or whatever.
No, we are going to go with cedar. I think it's cedar. Yeah, we're doing wood.
Really? Okay.
It's a good choice, Jennifer.
I was gonna say, is that bad?
I didn't mean to call you Jennifer.
No, I knew you meant because the architect. I was just talking about her.
No, it's Jennifer.
We always thought we would go with. I mean, I grew up with a board and batten building in our family campground. I told my mom, much to her dismay, I would not paint it the same cabin brown color from Sherwin-Williams. But to me, I would want wood. The style, I mean, we can save money on the doors, the windows, and the garage doors, and the patio, but I'd like to go with wood.
Yeah,
We did the
cedar-
hardy plank, and I wish we hadn't.
Okay, well, if you go with cedar, get white cedar if possible. Vertical grain also if possible.
We're thinking a semi-transparent stain. Jennifer, the architect, has pictures of the Monroe County, some park buildings that, some pictures she wanted to show us with semi-transparent stain or before they were stained or something to go for a look. But I went to Sherwin-Williams just to get an idea of the differences because I'm only familiar with an opaque stain that we've done at the family business. But I think we're going to go for probably a semi-transparent to see more of the wood. And so the garage doors, I think there's got to be a contrast. Color-wise, I'm just not sure. But I wanted to start with materials that the steel, the way we were going composite would be an option, and then we'll get to the next level of color and settling on a style.
We don't have any dictation over colors, but if you go with semi-transparent, you don't like it, you can go over it with solid color at some point.
That's true. I think we're thinking a lighter color with darker windows, with darker doors and garage doors. More of a kind of a gray, like the color of our barn, the wood on our barn. We don't have very much wood at all because we just have the stone level, but there is some wood on it, and it's gray, brown barn wood. It's exactly what you would expect, but that's the sort of tone we're going for, I think.
Well, again, we don't have any authority over colors, so you could paint it pink and green.
Oh no.
Hopefully not, but that's we do not control.
Jan? No?
So I think that is it for, I'll say this month, because I'll probably be back next month for some more questions, and we're going to aim to submit our application for the October meeting. Okay. And Jennifer and Mark will be with us, and we'll be able to answer any questions there are. I'm sure you folks will be tired of hearing about this by then, but we'll be on our way. And then we're going to build as soon as we can in the spring.
Amanda, what's the name of your door carpenter, Jim?
I don't know what his last name is.
Turner.
It's Jim Turner.
Turner? Okay, thank you.
Yes, I reached out to Steve Jordan to see if his sash maker would make me a window, and his sash maker has retired. So he pointed me toward Jim, and Jim said, great, as long as he can build it over the winter, and I didn't need it in the next, couple months.
There's also David Young, who, if you need to have a second choice.
What is it, Young?
Dave Young. He
Young,
built all
okay.
our windows and doors.
He did, okay. Yeah, I'll reach out to you for his contact information, because I would this is a new process to me, so I think it could never hurt to see what we're looking at. But I think that's the best way to go for the house, so we can get a match and we can stick with the type of materials that would have been used on the house. Even though this is an addition that was done, we're not entirely sure, but it's the last addition on the house. So, and by the aluminum outside, maybe 50s or 60s. So I think on my list, that's all I had.
One other question. What were you planning on for gutters and downspouts? Haven't gotten that far.
Haven't gotten that far. That's
Okay.
a very good question. I'm sorry, there's so many this is a project of a scale that's new to me. So that's a very good question.
Well, that's why we're here.
Yes, I do think, I would say probably 5 inches are fine.
No, I mean material.
Yeah, I'm not sure. On our house, we have, I think we have aluminum, but we're going to replace them when we do the roof. They're terrible, and they're not well placed. But for the garage, because it's a new build, I'm not sure what would be recommended.
Jennifer will give you an idea on that.
Okay. But yeah, you're right. We haven't talked about that yet. I thought I had everything. Where can I go? Does anyone know where I can go to look at metal roofs?
I probably could send you a couple of. I don't know whether B&L Wholesale sells them. Do you know, John?
I don't know.
No,
I mean,
let me do a little research and I'll see what I can come up with.
it's tough without having locked in a contractor yet. I don't want to burden them with sending me things until we've made a final decision. But
I have a couple of resources. I'll
Okay.
see what I can find.
okay, I did. We are waiting to hear back from Shane, because I did have a couple of questions for him. One of them was, what do you recommend for a metal roof? So I might be back next month with an example for the metal roof and some gutters.
Just
So-
a couple thoughts on metal roof before you go. Make sure that the fasteners are concealed and they don't have any screw through with gaskets on the outside of the face of the roof. So if it's a standing seam, normally they'll put a clip under the seam part and then bend it over and then put another section in. So make sure that the fasteners are concealed.
Okay. All right, I think we're good to go. Thank you so much, Brett, for showing us all that.
Jerry, this is Ken. If I could chime in here. Jerry?
Yes.
Yeah. I know that we don't do too many new construction C of As. And I know Amanda hasn't made her application yet, but just in anticipation of when she does make her application and this does come before the board formally, the issues for new construction are the same as any alteration issues. It's not a matter of whether it's a look you like or dislike, or whether it's convenient or inconvenient for the homeowner, or whether it costs more or less for certain materials. The only issue really is the new construction compatible with the historic character of the existing structures? And it would include the grounds. The grounds, as we know, at least a certain percentage or a certain number of feet of the grounds are included in the designation. So what is done with the patio is relevant. What is done with the roof is relevant. But it has to do with the consistency with the rest of the structure and the compatibility with the historic character of the building. I heard a lot of other more subjective terms being thrown around during this discussion, which wouldn't necessarily be appropriate under the criteria that we have.
Well, and I appreciate the commission's feedback for me on these sorts of style issues that you're right, that would not be normally part of an application. My main goal tonight was to find out, as far as the materials go, using steel composite garage doors, for example, if the commission would agree that would be compatible with the historic character of the property, because we haven't seen something like that while I've been on the board. So, so thank you.
Well, we have to measure historic relevance or appropriateness with practicality, and so the garage doors you mentioned would certainly be historically appropriate, but if you have to replace the whole door if it gets a dent in it, that's not very practical. So we try to look at both sides of the issue.
Oh, actually, I did have one further question. Given that we are doing Zoom, assuming we're still doing Zoom in October, the sheets that I have pulled from the brochures and the books that were given to me, are these sufficient evidence of the materials, or would you like me to obtain samples and have them for you in front of the camera at the time we make the application? Or is what we've shown sufficient?
Well, I think what you've shown is okay, but I'll listen to John and the rest of the commission. What do you think?
This would represent a good submission.
You're showing the side.
Yeah, I think you're okay.
Okay. All right, that's all for me.
Thank you.
All right, we have another speaker for the open forum, Jerry. Shannon. Let me unmute her. Elizabeth, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Yes, we can.
Okay. And now my video's going.
Yep, your video is going.
Oh, there you are.
Hello.
Hi.
So I've never attended one of these before. What's the best way to start explaining why I'm here?
Just explain why you're here.
Okay. So my husband and I just purchased 394 Edgewood. And we're very excited to be living in a historic home. And I understand in the past, this home was reviewed for possible designation. And then it was not, part of the reason it didn't go further was, I believe, the aluminum siding. And I was curious what other factors might be coming into play as a barrier, because if it's only the siding, we're not fans of aluminum siding either. And we would probably want to move forward with pursuing designation. But if there's a laundry list a mile long of reasons why this house wouldn't be considered or approved, I would like to get started on some projects that will make this place more livable. So that's kind of the crux of it. And I guess, I mean, deep down, I love old buildings. We got married at the Genesee Country Museum for a reason. It was something I'd love to do, but I do want to be practical about the quality of life and the mountain ahead of us if we did want to pursue designation.
Well, I will defer to Diana, who lives across the street, and also Mary Jo. I don't have the original survey in front of me, but I believe there were several things that were changed since we first looked at the house.
I believe, if I remember correctly, maybe not, I believe we were about to either ask to have the survey updated. I think that's what it was. And just a week before, they ripped out all the double hung windows. And I remember Jerry's statement, have you driven by the house? Have you seen what they've done? And that kind of put a damper on everything, even though I think I was probably the only one who voted the opposite way. So it's the windows and the siding. And I believe other people were concerned about some shrubbery, but that, I'm not sure about that. I think the only really important characteristic that I can see of the house is, one, its history, that it belonged, that was in the family with our house, number one, and number two, the little gingerbread front porch. Other than that, it's just a house.
Right.
Mary Jo?
I have nothing to add, really. I concur with Diana.
Did they take the porch had, some of the house had some bric-a-brac on the front porch. Is that still there?
It is.
Okay. So basically it was probably the shrubbery, which can be replanted, no big deal. So it was the windows and the siding, I think, were the two deciding factors why we did not proceed with designation.
Okay.
Even though there is a designated house with aluminum siding on Edgewood Avenue already, one of the first houses, the Joseph Amby house.
So I
So
think
any other-
saying the two of them together were probably combining. The windows are the biggest deal for sure. The siding is actually somewhat reversible.
The windows were the last straw because they were all loaded up against a tree out in the front of the house. And this is very personal, but I called my husband to go get those windows and he didn't do it. So it's a very personal story.
Did the original windows, were they divided light? Did they have muntins?
Regular, just like ours, regular 6/6 double hung windows.
Okay.
I wanted them.
Replace those with a Marvin simulated divided light or true divided light. We have approved a similar situation in the past. So that would be one thing, which would not be inexpensive for sure. And the siding, you could probably just take off and find out what was underneath it.
Yeah. Okay. Getting the windows addressed does sound like a very big undertaking.
Well, it's probably worth a call and just to find out what's involved.
Yeah. Yeah. One question that would also be important for us to know as we're considering this or not is that there are other pieces of this house that clearly aren't original, such as the garage that was added on at some point. And it needs work. It's not really a 2-car garage. Off the back of the house, there used to be a deck. Now it's just a 6-foot drop out of the kitchen. Are those the kinds of things that would fall under needing approval if we were to get designated status?
Well, if you wanted to change the garage, sure.
Okay.
We would certainly be open to that, as long as it was, appropriate. Sure, we'd be open to that. So if you wanted to just tear down what you've got and rebuild it, providing you could do it zoning code-wise, we wouldn't have a problem with that.
Okay. Yeah, we'd like to fit both our cars in it, honestly.
Well, I can understand why.
Yeah, live in Rochester for a minute. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jerry, I have a question. Have we ever, I've never heard of this, but would we be open to some of the windows being replaced? Maybe the most visible windows? Just an idea.
Well, I think any of the windows that get replaced, we'd be open for. Whether or not that would affect designation or not, I can't say. I'm just one member, but I don't think we'd have any windows that are better than probably what's there. So, sure.
Can you describe what the windows, what they were replaced with? What are they like now?
I believe they're just a standard modern vinyl window.
Okay.
Jerry, it's Ken Gordon. If I could just again make a couple quick comments. So it's my understanding that this property is neither currently designated nor is it any longer on the list of surveyed properties which are awaiting designation. So currently, this property does not really fall under the Historic Preservation Commission's jurisdiction in any way. And the question that you're asking, Elizabeth, is a very difficult one, because what you're asking is, if I do certain work, will my property be designated? And I can tell you that the commission could not possibly give you a clear answer on that. It cannot make its decision until it had a full record and a full hearing before it. And so perhaps one of the ideas would be for you to speak with the architectural firm that does these historic surveys for the town, and an idea from them as to what they would say about your property and what improvements or changes you could make to the property to get its the architect to have an opinion that it is worthy of designation, or at least worthy of preservation under the criteria that we have in our town code. But I don't think the commission today, or frankly at any point, could give you an opinion in advance as to what work you should do in order to make sure that your house is designated.
That's really helpful feedback. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
How can I get the name of that architecture firm?
Oh, we can supply it. Perhaps Ramsey can send you that after we're offline.
Okay, great. And I mean, my heart is
Elizabeth,
not
if you
set
could just
on.
if you could just email me. You have my
Yep,
email.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. My heart's not set on getting designation, but I would be very unhappy with myself if I let an easy enough opportunity slip by. So this is just really good starting information, and it might be more trouble than the historic value is worth, but it is certainly worth double checking before I start doing things that will get us further away from historical consideration.
Well, good idea, and thank you for coming.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I will email to ask about the architecture information.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I do have to run, so thank you so much for your time.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Anyone else to speak for open forum? That being said,
I don't think there is anyone else, Jerry.
okay, then I'd like to call the meeting to order. Ramsey, would you please call the roll?
Ludwig,
Here.
Page, Whitaker,
Here.
Greer,
Here.
Goodman, Absent, Vecchio,
Here.
Here,
all present except Goodman.
Well, that meeting will now be held. May I have an approval of the agenda, please?
I make a motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
second that,
Intoxicated high or something.
No. Gotta.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Great. Agenda stands approved. Minutes from July 23rd.
Who had the second?
I believe Diana second. Is that right?
yes.
Okay, Diana second. David moved. Diana seconded.
I didn't have any changes to the minutes. There were a couple mentions of where there was feedback in the conversation, but I think that was properly indicated in the record. I don't think there were any other substantive changes.
I did see one on page 45, line 19. We need to get the spelling of Chabad Lubavitch correct.
Which is?
The 1037 South Winton Road, the building.
No, the correct spelling.
Yeah.
Which is the correct spelling?
Somebody who's more knowledgeable than me, Habad, I think it's the first part of it.
Okay.
What's
No,
CH.
Chabad,
CH?
new word, Lubavitch, Lubivitch.
Amateurs.
Ken won the spelling bee in his high school.
I think I might be the only one who went to Hebrew school here.
I just had a couple of corrections on page 11, line 11. It should be either, it was a house with, we're talking about the carriage house at 2300 East Ave. It should either Bragdon's hyphen design or Bragdon ED designed ED. Small thing. And then on page 37, line 11, landmark should be a capital L. And on page 53, line 2, we're talking about the house. We just talked about it on Edgewood Avenue. It should be, it's the former tenant house for Diana's house. It's not the tenant house anymore. Former tenant house. That's it. Any other additions or corrections? Motion to approve.
I'll move.
Second.
Second, David. Okay,
Yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Stand approved.
Aye.
Ramsey, was this meeting duly advertised?
Yes, it was properly advertised in the Brighton Pittsford Post of August 13, 2020.
Well, that meeting is duly advertised, will now be held. No communications, no designation of landmarks. First item, certificate of appropriateness, 7H-01-20, revised, East Avenue text number 122.20-1-1. This is the carriage house at 2300 East Avenue. So that meeting, that certificate of appropriateness will now be held. Who's here to speak on that? Gary and Troy?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Once again, for the record, please state your names.
Gary Ledgerwood. Sorry, go ahead, Troy.
Troy Beckwith.
And Gary Ledgerwood.
All right. Troy, would you spell your last name, please?
Beckwith.
Okay. Very good. Gentlemen, you have the floor.
Go ahead, Gary.
So we took all the comments that we received the last time and sent in some revised content. I worked back and forth with John and we came up with something that he felt was appropriate, which is what you're seeing on the screen right now. Trying to remember what were some of the major changes. We pushed the overhang over the door up to be an extension of the roof and put in some brackets. We put a transom window over the doors per John's comments, added some trim work to the dormers. What else? Oh yeah, I did send I gotta look at that letter. I think that pretty much sums up what we did from the last time. We made sure that we're keeping the existing cornice and repairing where necessary.
Gary, your letter says windows sizes have been updated to reflect the existing openings.
Yes, thank you. The older version, I did not have the correct window sizes, so I went out and measured the windows, and this now represents the correct length and width. or height and width.
John,
Yes.
your comments,
Um,
please?
I think that what I was hoping to see from the initial submission was a carriage house that had a building that had the characteristics of the original carriage house, modified to work better with the program that they were hoping to achieve. And to that end, it was recommended, and what they have worked out here is replacing the original roof and extending it over the entire building instead of building a second floor with a new roof on it. And the second floor is within the hipped mansard with large shed dormers that are laid out symmetrically around the building. They've created a simple entrance. Yeah, you can see that the original design is an attractive design, but relative to the original building, it's a significant difference. And those things were worked out, and there were some minor detail things about the trim around the windows and on the main floor, and working out the entrance and things that were requested. And I appreciate the willingness to consider a different approach, and with the same program goals in mind. So I am pleased with this. I think it actually represents a good blend of preservation and accommodation for adaptive reuse. That if I was on the preservation side of things, I wouldn't want to see this happen to the building. If I was on the development side, I'd be worried about not getting more out of it. I think it's, from my standpoint, a good compromise for the building. So I'm appreciative and happy with the way it's turning out so far, personally.
Thank you, John. Any other comments?
Jerry, it's Ken Gordon. I saw, I think, on the design that we were presented with at the last meeting, a tenant sign for Tree of Hope right on the facade of the building. I see a tenant sign on this new design building, but I assume that one will be there, and I think that the commission would need to approve that alteration as well as part of the CF.
Well, Ken, I believe the last meeting I asked about the Tree of Hope and was told that there was no hope. And so the Tree of Hope is not going to be there. It's going to be another office building. So there, as far as I know, there will be no sign. I believe we talked about that at the last meeting. I may be wrong.
That's correct.
Okay. So there is no hope anymore.
And gentlemen and ladies, originally when we did the building up front, if you recall, there was a place over the top of the main entrance for the door that we were going to put a sign, but we decided not to do it. And then we probably won't do it at this building. I just think it takes the character away from the building. Some more signage out front. There's some sign, if you look at the two entranceways going into the property, But at this point in time, I don't think it's necessary to actually put a sign on there to designate what that building is used for. I think it just doesn't fit the character of the building. We might have to do a small placard or something, but we would come forward at that time to do a signage on the building. But I don't think it's necessary this time, Ken.
Right, that was, my point was simply not that it had to be the Tree of Hope or any particular tenant, but that if there was to be signage placed on the exterior of the building, that you would need that to be part of a CA. And you've said that if you decide to do that in the future, that's what you will do. So
right, correct. Thank you.
I think we're good.
Other than that, I think we met everything. Gary did the cornice brackets there on the entrance. We'll match them like we did the front house. I sent them away and they matched the original ones. I think it's going to be a great project.
Great. Looks good. Any other comments from anyone?
Great. Looks good.
Gary or Troy, any other comments?
No, I think Gary come through for us, both of us, or all of us actually, and I think it meets, we met all your criterias, and I want to thank you guys very much for letting us get started with the demo. We're almost done inside, so I'm ready for step 2.
Well, John, I have to thank John publicly for his input on all of this. I really,
Same.
John.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have we seen the window and door submissions? I think we asked for those last time. Submittals for the submittals for the actual doors and windows.
We're going to do the same thing as we presented up front. Gary has them right there. The only difference in the shingle, the color of the shingle sample, obviously we're going to match the rest of the property. They're all the Grand Maynard shingles. We're going to do Marvin windows with the simulated divided lights, 5/8, you know, to match the original. And obviously you guys see what we did in the past. We don't chintz on anything. So when I say the window's going to match what's there, it'll match 100%.
No, this is good. This is from the first job. So that's
correct. And we're all through that whole project, we've done the same, the same stuff. So, yeah.
Looks good.
We'll use the the restoration board and the hardy board wherever necessary. The crown molding up underneath the eaves, I sent it away. We matched the the house up front. We matched it, custom made. Everything will it'll be just what you see.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Any other comments or questions? Ramsey or Ken, would you like to prepare a motion?
Sure. I take it that the public hearing on this matter is closed.
Yes, it is. Public hearing is closed on this.
I don't know if there's anyone that wants to speak on the matter. I don't see anyone else in the participants list. If there is, please raise your hand. I'm not seeing anyone.
So with the public hearing closed, I would propose the following resolution for the consideration of the commission. Whereas application number 7H0120 has been submitted for a certificate of appropriateness under the town's historic preservation law for improvement to property located at 2290 East, town of Brighton, County of Monroe, owned by 290 East Ave Properties LLC, to perform work which is described as renovation of an existing carriage house for office space. And whereas said application was amended by Hanlon, Hanlon Architects on behalf of the owners in its middle to the commission dated August 12th, 2020, together with the attachments submitted with said transmittal. And whereas the Historic Preservation Commission duly called a public hearing to consider the matter on August 20, 2020, and whereas the necessary legal notice was published and the requisite sign posted pursuant to town code, and whereas the public hearing was held and all persons having an interest in such matter having had an opportunity to be heard thereon, and whereas the Historic Preservation Commission hereby determines pursuant to the factors set forth in section 224-5 of the town code that the proposed above described work to the subject property is consistent with the purposes of the town's historic preservation law and compatible with the property's historic character based upon its review of the application and documents on file and received at the public hearing and presented with the Hanlon Architects transmittal of August 12th, 2020, and the testimony presented at the public hearing, it is hereby resolved that the Historic Preservation Commission hereby receives and files the above described application and amendments in the transmittal dated August 12th, 2020. And it is further resolved that the Historic Preservation Commission hereby approves application number 7H0120 for a certificate of appropriateness for the above described work to be performed at the property located at 2290 East Avenue in the town of Brighton, subject to the condition that the work performed is consistent with the transmittal dated August 12th, 2020, and the materials and plans described in the attachments thereto, and subject to the further condition that the above described work be completed within 1 year from the date of this approval. And be it further resolved that pursuant to Chapter 224 of the Town Code, the above described work qualifies for the exemptions set forth in New York Real Property Tax Law, Section 444-A.
Thank you, Ken. Any additions or corrections? Ramsey, would you like to, first of all, would someone like?
Motion in a second, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we need someone to put forth the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Someone to second it, please.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Diana. Any
Robertson,
discussion? Okay, Ramsey, would you call the roll?
Ludwig,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Greer,
Yes.
Whitaker. Page,
Yes.
Vecchio.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you in every
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Can I
Thank
make
you.
a quick
Great
comment?
presentation. We appreciate your effort here.
We appreciate you guys as well. Thank you.
John,
Yes.
you still there?
Yep.
I would encourage you, or would certainly most like you to stop by during the project. You know, if you have any questions or concerns, you know, you obviously are really dedicated to the historical value of the Brighton community, and as well as we are. So I really encourage you to stop by and chat with us and show you what we're doing.
Well, thank you. I'd like to do that. I won't stop by to nitpick. I'll stop by to see improvements being made.
I assume that applies to all of us, not just John.
Well, certainly, but
That's okay. We won't ride in the same car. It's all right. Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Gary.
All right, guys. Take care.
See you guys.
Okay, that public hearing is closed. Now we have 8H-01-20, application of John and Elaine Rogers, owner of property at 2585 East Avenue, tax number 122.20-3-30, for a certificate of appropriateness to install a 4-foot aluminum fence to match existing fence in rear yard. Who's here to speak on that application?
You need to unmute yourself.
John, is that you?
No.
No, I mean, John Rogers. You need to unmute your Zoom. There you go. You there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just, John, if you would please just state your name for the record and what you want to do.
Yeah, John Rogers. We live at 2585 East Avenue, and we're actually installing a 4-foot decorative fence in 1/3 of the backyard that mirrors the existing. So in the rear of our backyard on East Avenue, we have a stone wall. On the, when you're looking in the backyard on the right-hand side, we have a black decorative fence that actually mirrors the front right on East Avenue. And we're just looking to enclose it on the left-hand side when you're looking in the rear of our backyard for the dogs.
And John, what kind of dogs do you have? Just out of curiosity, I'm a dog lover, so what do you have?
We have a Basset Hound and a rescue terrier. Just a
They're the
little
best
guy.
kind.
Yeah.
Why have one breed when you can have them all? Great.
Exactly.
So this was part of Ron Reed's property, for those you may not remember. And he sold his house and this adjacent property. So we've seen the fence, and any questions from anyone?
Was this the Swanusen house?
I'm sorry?
It was the Barrett house.
Was this the Swanusen house?
This was the Barrett house. That's correct.
Yeah, the Barrett house.
And
The
the
Barrett.
Tricky family purchased the mansion next door.
Anna, are you up there?
It's a good submission, and the fence is the same fence that we've approved previously for the property, so I'm satisfied.
Correct.
Yes.
Any other questions, concerns? Ken, it's up to you.
Not yet.
You gonna close the public hearing?
I don't know if there's anyone out there in Zoom
Oh,
world
yeah,
who
there's
wants to speak, and
Is there anyone out? Yes. Is there anyone out here in Zoom world that wants to comment?
I don't see anyone else that could possibly, because it's all us and Jay Rogers.
Okay, then the public hearings are closed. Ken, would you prepare a motion?
certainly, thank you, Jerry. I would propose the following resolution for the consideration of the commission. Whereas application 8H0120 has been submitted for a certificate of appropriateness under the town's historic preservation law for improvement to property located at 2585 East Avenue, owned by John and Elaine Rogers, to perform work described as the installation of a 4-foot aluminum fence to match the existing fence in the rear yard. And whereas the Historic Preservation Commission duly called a public hearing to consider the matter on August 27th, 2020, and whereas the necessary legal notice was published and the required sign posted pursuant to the town code, and whereas the public hearing was held and all persons having an interest in such matter having had an opportunity to be heard therein, and whereas the Historic Preservation Commission hereby determines pursuant to the factors set forth in section 224-5 of the town code that the proposed above described work to the subject property is consistent with the purposes of the town's historic preservation law and compatible with the property's historic character based upon its review of the application and the materials and pictures submitted therewith and those on file and received at the public hearing and the testimony presented at the public hearing. It is hereby resolved that the Historic Preservation Commission hereby receives and files the above described application and all of its attachments. And it is further resolved that the Historic Preservation Commission hereby approves application number 8H0120 for a certificate of appropriateness for the above described work to be performed at the property located at 2585 East Avenue, subject to the condition that the work performed is consistent with and as described and depicted in the materials submitted with the application, and further subject to the condition that the above described work be completed within 1 year from the date of this approval.
Thank you, Ken.
Make the motion.
Thank you. David, a second, please.
I'll second.
Thanks, Diana.
Robertson,
Yes.
Yes. Any comments?
No.
Okay. Ramsey?
Member Ludwig,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Greer,
Yes.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Vecchio.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. John, sorry you had to wait a while.
Not a problem.
Well, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, John.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Welcome to the
Appreciate it. Yep. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Take care.
Any new business? Okay, any old business other than, where are we on, we were gonna send a letter to, was it 332?
332 South Landing Road.
How did,
We did, Mary Jo and I did speak with the property owner
okay,
for quite a long time. She's very dedicated to the house. She does not want to be designated though. And we knew that going into it. There were previous discussion many years ago. She will give you a very articulate reason why. She speaks well, and she plans to, come at the hearing and give you her reasons of why she doesn't think it should be designated.
okay,
Mary Jo, you have anything else to add?
Just that the house is 110 years old, and it's being badly damaged by the impact of the traffic on 490. That the particular stucco with which it is made is developing mold underneath, she said, and that it's very expensive to get this repaired, and that she's literally, I guess, spending everything she has to do this. I don't know whether there's a way around this. If any of you know a way to fix this problem, but she's quite upset about the whole thing, as you can imagine.
well, oh, that's an interesting conundrum.
Yeah, it is.
Mold underneath the stucco.
Yeah, let me see if I can find my notes here. Mold gets into the cracks of the stucco.
Yes.
And then that moisture gets behind it, I guess. And she has a man named Jim Keene who
Yes.
has been her restorer. And it's the problem began in 1982, I guess, when they put the third lane for the left-hand turn for 5, was it after that? Anyway, the problem began in 1982. The house rattles, and she said it is falling apart. Megan McKenzie is her gardener.
Okay, I know Megan, I know Jim.
One of the 13 McKenzie kids. She had somebody from Syracuse to remove sections of a place at a time. Oh, the roof, I guess. replacing it with tar paper and then putting the tiles back on. So that's a consideration also that she has. She's very passionate about the house. It appears that she and her husband have divorced and she's living there on her own and has been there alone since the isolation began. And
What's her name?
Angela.
Oh, Professional.
Yes.
Angela Professional.
Correcto.
Yeah.
the widening of Linden Avenue took out a 3-bay carriage house. And she built the garage that's existing on the property now.
She doesn't want it. It's not.
Well, this is a tough one.
It's a very tough one.
I was just looking at the code, and Ken, you probably can tell me faster, but when we look at the old surveys, there's an indication about the risks and threats to the property. What is our consideration of those factors like under the code when we're designating a property?
Ken?
Had to get to my mute button there. It's a criteria. If we take a look at, section 224. -3. The threat to the property is not spelled out as a specific criteria. I know that becomes a rating factor in the surveys that are done as to whether it's threatened or not. Certainly, I don't know what this survey says, if this is a red property or.
Okay, well, we can find that. I guess my main concern is this woman's undergone obviously some personal issues and she's got some issues with the house. I don't want to make life worse for her. Or more complicated. I would like to help her, but she's got a great stucco guy, Jim Keene. So I'm not sure what to do here.
Terry, I'm familiar with the situation here, and she wants to sell the house. So she probably doesn't want to get anything that might affect that.
Okay.
She did say that the other day, that she didn't want to compromise, have a new owner compromised by having restrictions put on him or her. But she didn't mention that she was going to sell the house.
Yeah, she wants to.
I remember her mentioning that.
She does.
Well, I guess my initial thought is to hold off on this. I don't want to make, the role of the commission is yes to designate historic properties, but it's also not to make life miserable for anyone in the house. I don't know. I guess I'd like some further input from other members.
Well, I'll say the house is a slam dunk as far as designation is concerned.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree too.
It's a pretty bad precedent if we start to look at outside, into emotional issues. So
we've done it in the past, John.
And I've always regretted it, Jerry.
I know. Well, I guess how we're perceived is part of what we do, and yes, I guess I would like some other input here. I'm inclined to to pass on this for the current time, but what do the rest of you think?
I mean, I agree with John. Any argument or any consideration having to do with the sale of the property, to me, I mean, things do change rapidly, but this is Brighton in 2020. And even though it would most likely be a more expensive house, they're still selling. And I don't think this sort of a house, it's no secret of the history. I mean, it's not a typical house. And I don't think that any consideration of the fact that it may be sold soon and worries about that should play into that at all. And if anything, you know, looking to ensure that the house remains in the future is something we can consider.
Well, I was more concerned with her personal situation, not just selling a house.
If I could just interject here on the discussion of any matters of a personal nature, I really think that is not an appropriate discussion. Please remember that we are on a public platform here, and discussing this owner or any owner's personal life or marital status, for example, is simply not appropriate. And
Okay.
shouldn't be part of
I have
this.
to agree to that. It has no place.
Okay. Diana?
If we put it off, can we pick it up in the future, a year from now?
I don't know why not.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
I think the question sometimes, this has happened before, when someone says, why did when I just bought the house, I just bought this house and now you're wanting to designate it, and why did you wait so long to designate it?
Mm.
Mary
Okay.
Jo, were you on that call with me when I got hit with that question?
Probably. Probably.
You know, so you do need to think about it. If it is should be designated, you need to give it strong consideration.
Any other thoughts?
My only other thought I wanted to add was, and I really am uneducated when it comes to maintenance of historic houses altogether, but if I followed the discussion that you were having regarding the mold causing problems for the stucco, it is because of cracks appearing in the face of the stucco, which sounds like a failure to maintain the face of the stucco in the first place, is the cause of the problem. And so if the property was designated, then the commission would have more control slightly over insisting that the property be maintained and preserved. We certainly have seen properties in our community that have deteriorated to the point that they are no longer worthy of designation because of structural or other disabilities, if you will, of the property. So
yeah, I will
just
say
something to keep in mind. And if that is what is causing it, if it's the owner's failure to maintain the stucco.
I don't think it is. I think what her position is, it's cracking because of the truck vibrations off the expressway. And that they
After
moved
110
the
years?
Yes.
See, I think it's
They
probably
moved the road closer, and they actually lowered the road to try to reduce the vibrations on the house. So
I
it's her
suspect it may
contention
be I suspect it may be due to the roof leaking, and because the house has relatively wide overhangs, and I would suspect that maybe the roof is leaking and going down between the framed walls and the stucco. That might be, and maybe the vibration. I don't know what's causing it, but
that was just what she had said. And
yeah.
she did talk about the cost of redoing the roof too. That was the other thing.
So when we find ourselves in this position, I always think that, and it's hard. I feel for the situation too, but we're, in my opinion, we're supposed to be dispassionate about and be an advocate for the house. And then the situation will arise when somebody's confronted with having to replace the roof, let's say, and they'll have the opportunity to go for hardship if there's a hardship case to be made. mean, we found ourselves in a position with the Lipman's property where they wanted to replace the roof with something that, I mean, there's someone who came at it the wrong way in a lot of ways, and then told us what the condition was that was easy to determine that the condition was actually not what was being said. So anyway, we helped that project out. So there's instances where when we're at our best, I think we actually help the people through the rehabilitation process. And this, you're right, this could end up being a difficult property because of the unusual nature of the stucco and the unusual nature of the roof, which also make it's part of the defining characteristics of the property and the uniqueness of it. I mean, we basically, I don't think, have another building like this in Brighton practically, and this is a really good architect. So I'm sad to hear that there's these other things that are mitigating the way to think about it, because otherwise the building is on its own is just fantastic.
Oh, no argument there.
Mhm.
So, motion to proceed?
Oh, I'll make
It
that
would be for
motion.
me to schedule it for a public hearing.
I'll
for the,
second.
September 24th. Is that a motion of Page?
Yes.
Second by Dreher.
Yes.
Any discussion? Ramsey?
Member Ludwig,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Vecchio,
Yes.
Whitaker,
No.
Page,
Yes.
Dreher.
Yes.
Motion passes. I'll send out the notices and notify the property owner.
Okay, and we'll, what's on 909 Landing Road? Did we had as I recall, we had a initial survey done. Have we had another survey with all the buildings done?
The church has been surveyed, the property's been updated, and I submitted an application for both those properties together last couple of days ago. There.
Okay. Should we send out?
I'm sorry, Mary Jo, do we have a survey that's covering the?
I gave it to the Gretchen on Tuesday.
Oh, that's probably why I didn't. Yeah, I wasn't here.
So motion to send a letter.
I'll make that motion.
Do we need to see this survey covering the church building?
It was sent out to you. That was my mistake last month in thinking that there wasn't a survey, but there was. It was done by Katie Eggers-Como.
The update. Okay.
Yeah, the update, which
Okay.
does cover the other building.
Yes, right.
Yes, it does. Okay. I didn't know if there
All
was
right,
anything.
I didn't know that, Mary Jo. Somehow I didn't hear
Yeah,
that.
that was my mistake. I went through my folder and found it.
Okay, because I was under the impression we didn't have one.
No, we do.
So we have an updated survey, and that should be in our mailboxes soon if it's not there already. Any other comments? Okay, let's see. I think we had a motion and a second.
Did we have a motion in a second? I'm sorry.
Yeah, John said.
John made the motion.
And I
Sorry,
think,
guys. And second by? Who
I'll
seconded?
speak at once.
I'm sorry.
Do we have a second? All right, David, second.
Whitaker seconds.
Any discussion?
And this is a motion to send the first letter.
Yes.
Member Ludwig,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Vecchio,
Yes.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Dreher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, and I think we'll hold off on South Winton Road until Bill has had a chance to speak with them about that. Any other business for tonight? Motion to adjourn? John says yes. Second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Safety to all.
Yeah, everyone, thanks for all the effort tonight. There's a lot of work.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Oh,
Glad
actually,
to have you home, Jerry.
Well, thank you. Thank you, David. Glad to be home for a while.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Ramsey, I was just wondering if the materials that I submitted in open forum, normally I could, make copies and can them around. Can they be sent to the commission? Maybe
Yeah,
it might
we could-
save time for next month if I have further things to.
Well, you need to actually submit an application. There's a certificate of appropriateness application.
I didn't know if they could be emailed around without that. Okay.
No, we actually do need the actual application form to be filled out.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that. I just didn't know if what I
Maybe we can
showed
talk
tonight.
offline. Why don't
Okay.
let's talk offline and we can figure something out for you.
Okay.
Amanda, my thought on that is to make your record complete, you're going to want to attach, and it can be done electronically, but you're going to want to attach your exhibits to your application.
And I plan to do that. I'm just thinking that the architect's drawings, if I come back next month with more materials questions, if everyone could have them instead of just looking at the screen while we're scrolling by, just to save time.
When you make your application, you guys will get the applications. You did not make an application during open forum. That's why I don't distribute the information.
Okay, I didn't know if you were allowed to for next time to save time, but I understand.
The next time, if you're going to make an application, right?
Not for
I'm sorry.
October.
I misunderstood. Okay.
I'll touch base with you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Brett, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Brett.
Brett, nice
No
job.
problem.
We do appreciate all your help in moving the drawings around.
No problem. Have a good evening.
Yeah, I'll talk to you tomorrow, Diana. Good
Thanks.
night.
Take care.
Everyone, Justin.
Yep. Bye.
See ya.